Beyoncé's music played gently in the background while Lisa weaved swiftly between tables, expertly balancing trays stacked with steaming plates of food. Just another long shift at the cozy, family-owned diner nestled in the heart of Washington, D.C. But by now, she had grown used to the rhythm, the rush, the clatter of cutlery, the steady hum of conversations. For nearly 5 years, she had been working here, saving diligently for her dreams while making sure her younger brother, who had just started college, had everything he needed. It wasn't the easiest job, but she took pride in it. No matter how drained she felt, she always greeted customers with a genuine smile, even on days when exhaustion settled deep in her bones. The diner had its regulars, kind-hearted folks who would ask about her day, and others who barely acknowledged her presence. But to Lisa, they all deserved the same treatment, warmth, respect, and gratitude. That evening, as the sun began dipping below the horizon, its golden rays streamed through the diner's wide windows, bathing the place in a soft glow. The crowd was steady, a mix of tourists, locals, and the occasional well-dressed businessman stopping in for a quick bite. Lisa was refilling a coffee cup when she saw the door swing open. A tall, lean teenager stepped inside, hands tucked into the pockets of a neatly fitted blazer. There was something oddly familiar about him, his sharp features, his golden brown hair. It took a moment for recognition to hit. Her heart skipped. Barron Trump. Swallowing hard, she quickly straightened her apron, glancing around. A few customers had noticed too, their eyes flickering in his direction as he quietly made his way to an empty booth in the corner. He wasn't surrounded by security, nor did he carry an air of entitlement. If anything, he seemed almost low-key, like he was hoping to blend in. Taking a steadying breath, Lisa approached with her usual friendly demeanor, pen and notepad in hand. "Good evening," she greeted, her voice warm and even. "Welcome to Rosie's Diner. Can I get you something to drink to start?" Barron glanced up from the menu he had been studying, offering a small but polite smile. "Just water, please." "Sure thing. Take your time looking over the menu." She turned to grab his drink, her mind still spinning. She had read countless articles about him, seen his photos all over the internet, but seeing him in person? It was different. No cameras, no security team, just a regular teenager sitting alone in a booth. When she returned with his water, he was ready to order. "I'll have the classic cheeseburger and fries," he said. "You know." He hesitated for a moment. "What do you recommend?" Lisa's smile widened at the question. "The sweet potato fries are a house favorite," she offered. "A little crispier than regular fries and seasoned just right." "Then I'll go with those," Barron decided, setting the menu aside. Lisa quickly scribbled down the order and nodded. "Great choice. I'll have it out for you soon." As she turned back toward the kitchen, she caught the eye of her co-worker, Mora, who had clearly taken notice of their unexpected guest. "That who I think it is?" Mora whispered, her eyes flickering toward the booth. Lisa gave a subtle nod. "Yep." Mora let out a low whistle. Well, didn't expect to see someone like him here." "Me neither," Lisa admitted. "But, honestly, he's polite." She continued with her shift, checking on tables, delivering orders, making sure everything was running smoothly. Every now and then, her gaze would drift toward Barron's table. He sat quietly, occasionally checking his phone, but mostly, he just ate his meal in peace. As the evening wore on, Lisa found herself wondering, what was it like to live his life? To constantly be watched, judged, scrutinized? To have expectations placed on you, just because of who your family was? She knew what it meant to work hard for everything she had. But privilege? It came in many forms. Still, Lisa had never been one to judge based on background. To her, a customer was a customer. When Barron finished his meal, she walked over with a friendly smile. "Everything all right?" "It was great, thank you," he said sincerely. "Best sweet potato fries I've had in a while." Lisa chuckled. "Glad to hear that. Can I get you anything else?" He shook his head, reaching into his pocket. "Just the check, please." She nodded and went to grab it. When she returned, she placed it on the table with a polite, "Take your time." Barron reached for it, pulling out his wallet. Lisa turned away, heading back toward the counter to grab a tray of drinks for another table. By the time she returned just a few minutes later, he was gone. The booth, empty. The check, neatly folded, placed beside his empty plate. Lisa picked it up, unfolding it to find the cash for the meal, along with a generous tip. But there was something else, too. A small, neatly folded piece of paper. Frowning slightly, she opened it. Her eyes scanned the words, written in careful, thoughtful handwriting. Her breath caught in her throat. And before she even realized, her vision blurred with unexpected tears. She glanced around, half expecting to still see him sitting there, but he was already gone. The door had swung shut, and a cool breeze drifted in, rustling the edges of the note she held in her trembling hands. Quickly, Lisa wiped her eyes, her heart pounding as she reread the words. This was not what she had expected. Not at all. She blinked rapidly, trying to steady her breathing. But the words on the note, they swirled in her mind, looping over and over like a song she couldn't silence. Her fingers trembled as she clutched the small slip of paper, her heartbeat so loud she could almost hear it echoing in her ears. From behind the counter, Mara, who had clearly been watching, approached cautiously. "Lisa, you good?" Lisa swallowed hard, quickly stuffing the note into the pocket of her apron. "Yeah," she managed to choke out, clearing her throat. "I'm fine. Just surprised." Mara narrowed her eyes, clearly unconvinced. "That kid leave you a weird message or something?" Lisa hesitated. She wasn't sure if she was ready to share what was written on that note. Not yet. It felt too personal, too raw. "Not weird," she said finally, shaking her head. "Just unexpected." Mara shrugged, accepting the response at face value. "Well, if he left a big tip, you better not forget to share," she teased with a wink, trying to lighten the mood before heading back to the counter to check on the register. Lisa took a deep breath, forcing herself to refocus. The diner wasn't going to run itself. She still had tables to check, orders to take, drinks to refill. Pushing the note to the back of her mind, at least for now, she went through the motions. But even as she moved between tables, clearing plates and delivering orders, her hands still trembled slightly. And no matter how hard she tried, her thoughts kept drifting back to Barron Trump and the words he had left behind. It wasn't until her shift finally ended that she got a moment to sit down and, only now, as the diner grew quiet, save for the low hum of the radio playing softly in the background, did Lisa fully process what had just happened. The last few customers trickled out, their voices fading into the night. Untying her apron, she reached into her pocket, carefully pulling out the note. She smoothed it flat against the table in front of her, her fingers tracing over the edges. The handwriting was neat, deliberate, not rushed, not careless. That alone told her that whatever was written had been meant sincerely. She read it again. "Thank you for being so kind. It's rare to meet someone who treats everyone with the same respect, no matter who they are. You reminded me tonight that the world still has good people in it. I hope your kindness is returned to you tenfold." Lisa exhaled, a wave of emotion crashing over her all at once. It wasn't just the words that struck her. It was the fact that they had come from him. Barron Trump. A young man who, by all accounts, had no reason to notice her beyond being his waitress for the evening. She had been serving tables for years, always smiling, always making sure every customer felt valued. But this was different. This was acknowledgement, recognition, a reminder that the small things she did, her warm greetings, her genuine care, mattered. Quickly, she wiped her eyes before anyone could see, then carefully folded the note and tucked it back into her pocket. She wasn't sure what she'd do with it yet, but one thing she did know: she wouldn't throw it away. Some words deserved to be held on to. By the time she stepped outside, the streets were quieter, the glow of city lights flickering against the dark sky. Pulling her coat tighter around her, she made her way to the bus stop, her breath curling into the crisp night air. The exhaustion from her long shift still clung to her, but there was something else now, something new, a warmth in her chest that had nothing to do with the temperature outside. She couldn't help but wonder, what had brought Barron to the diner that night? Why had he chosen to sit alone? And what had compelled him to write that note? She didn't have the answers. But for some reason, she felt like the encounter meant something, like it had shifted something inside her in a way she didn't fully understand yet. The bus pulled up, and Lisa stepped onto the bus, settling into a seat near the back. As she gazed out the window, watching the city blur past, she let herself replay the moment in her mind, the quiet sincerity in Barron's voice, the way he had taken a moment to ask for her recommendation, and then the note. Lisa never believed in coincidences. She believed in moments. And this was one she wouldn't forget. The next morning, she woke up feeling different, lighter, maybe, more hopeful. Her shift wasn't until later in the afternoon, so she actually had some time to herself. But instead of sleeping in, she got up early, deciding to make breakfast for her younger brother, Marcus. He was hunched over the small kitchen table, cramming for an exam, barely looking up as she set a plate in front of him. "You're up early," he mumbled through a mouthful of toast, his eyes flicking over his notes. Lisa shrugged, pouring herself a cup of coffee. "Just felt like it." Marcus glanced at her then, narrowing his eyes slightly. "Something happen?" For a moment, Lisa hesitated. Then, reaching into her pocket, she pulled out the note and slid it across the table toward him. "Read this." Marcus put his pen down, picked up the note, and scanned the words. As he read, his expression shifted, softening in a way Lisa hadn't expected. When he finally looked up, there was something almost reverent in his eyes. "Wait. This is from Barron Trump?" Lisa nodded. Marcus let out a low whistle. "Wow, that's actually pretty cool." He set the note down carefully, shaking his head. "You know, sis, you've always had this way of making people feel seen. I don't even think you realize it half the time." Lisa felt a tightness in her throat. "I just do my job." Marcus smirked. "Nah, it's more than that." He tapped the note. "This proves it." Lisa let out a small laugh, shaking her head as she picked up her coffee. "I don't know about all that." Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying her. "So, what are you gonna do?" Lisa raised an eyebrow. "About what?" "This," Marcus said, gesturing toward the note. "Are you gonna respond? Try to reach out." Lisa blinked. "How would I even do that?" Marcus grinned. "Come on, Lisa. You're resourceful." And if he went out of his way to write that, maybe he's someone worth knowing. Lisa looked down at the note again, her fingers tracing its edges. She had never even considered that, never thought about what came next. But maybe Marcus had a point. Maybe. Just maybe. This wasn't the end of the moment. Maybe it was just the beginning. She sat at the small kitchen table long after Marcus had left for class, her fingers still gently tracing the note's edges. The words kept replaying in her mind, every syllable resonating in a way she hadn't expected. She'd received compliments from customers before, sometimes a kind word, sometimes even a scribbled thank you on a receipt. But this was different. This wasn't just a polite note of appreciation. It was intentional, personal. She turned the note over, half expecting to find something more. A phone number? A social media handle? Something. But the back was blank. Nothing but the words that had already carved themselves into her thoughts. With a small sigh, she carefully folded the paper and tucked it into her wallet. Maybe it was silly, holding on to it so tightly, but something in her gut told her this wouldn't be the last time she thought about that night. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. It was a message from Mara. "You good? You seemed off last night." Lisa smiled slightly and Lisa leaned back and quickly typed a response. "Yeah, I'm good. Just had a moment. See you at work." She wasn't sure what she'd say if Mara pressed her about it later, but for now, she wasn't ready to explain. Heck, she wasn't even sure she understood it herself. The day dragged on, slow and uneventful. Lisa kept herself busy, tidying up a small apartment, answering texts from friends, even casually scrolling through job postings on her laptop. It was something she did now and then, usually when she started thinking about what's next. The diner was steady work, and she was grateful for it, but she wanted more. She just wasn't sure what more looked like yet. But one thing she did know. She wasn't meant to wait tables forever. By the time her shift started that afternoon, everything felt routine, the steady rhythm of customers coming and going, orders being taken, plates being served. Lisa fell into step like always. Greet. Take orders. Serve. Repeat. But every so often, she caught herself glancing toward that booth, the one where Barron had sat the night before, half expecting to see him there again. He didn't come. Mara noticed. "You keep looking at that table like it owes you money," she teased as they refilled coffee cups at the counter. Lisa let out a laugh, shaking her head. "I have no idea what you're talking about." Mara smirked. "Aha, sure. That's not the same booth the Trump kid was sitting at, right?" Lisa hesitated, then sighed. "Maybe." Mara nudged her with an elbow. "What? He leave you a love note or something?" Lisa rolled her eyes but couldn't help but smile. "No, nothing like that. Just a note. A really nice one." Mara raised an eyebrow. "How nice?" Lisa reached into her wallet, pulling out the folded piece of paper. She handed it over. Mara read it, her usual teasing expression shifting into something softer. "Wow," she said after a moment. "That's actually really sweet." "Right." Lisa leaned against the counter. "I don't know why, but it stuck with me." Mara handed the note back. "Well, maybe you should do something about it." Lisa frowned. "Like what?" "It's not like he left a way to contact him." Mara shrugged. "You'd be surprised. People find ways. And if you're not gonna reach out, maybe just take it as a sign." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "A sign of what?" Mara grinned. "That good things happen when you least expect them." Lisa laughed, shaking her head. "You sound like a fortune cookie." Mara wiggled her fingers in the air dramatically. "The universe speaks in mysterious ways." Lisa rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. All right. Let's get back to work before George starts glaring at us. The rest of her shift passed without incident, but no matter how busy she kept herself, the note never left her mind. When she finally clocked out, she decided to take the long way home, walking for a while before catching the bus. The night air was crisp, refreshing, and with each step, her thoughts kept circling back to Barron's words. You reminded me tonight that the world still has good people in it. Did he not see that often? Did people only treat him a certain way because of his last name? It was easy to assume that someone like him, someone with his background, had an easy life. But maybe it wasn't that simple. Maybe, in his world, genuine kindness was rare. As she neared the bus stop, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was Marcus. You up? Lisa smiled, shaking her head as she typed back. It's not even late. Yeah, but I need advice. Lisa sighed, then called him. What's up? Marcus exhaled. Okay, so, there's this internship I want to apply for, but I don't know if I should. It's super competitive, and honestly, I don't even know if I have a shot. Lisa leaned against the bus stop sign, gripping her phone a little tighter. Marcus, come on. Of course you have a shot. You're one of the smartest people I know. He hesitated. Yeah, but what if I apply and don't get it? Lisa smiled. Then you apply for the next one. But you'll never know if you don't try. There was a pause. Then, Marcus sighed. That sounds like something Mom would say. Lisa's chest tightened at the mention of their mother. Yeah, she said softly. She was usually right, though. Marcus exhaled. All right, I'll apply. Good, Lisa said. And even if you don't get it, you tried. That's what matters. Thanks, sis. Any time. As she hung up, Lisa found herself thinking, maybe Mara was right. Maybe that note wasn't just about Barron. Maybe it was about her. A reminder that kindness mattered, that the little things could have a big impact, and that sometimes the universe really did speak in mysterious ways. She smiled to herself as the bus pulled up, stepping on and settling into a seat by the window. The city lights blurred past, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, something good was coming her way. Lisa's shift the next evening started like any other. She walked into the diner, tied her apron, exchanged greetings with Mara and George, then headed straight for her first table of the night. The usual routine kept her busy, but her thoughts? They kept drifting back to that note. She had memorized every word, the neat handwriting practically etched into her mind. But what really lingered was the question of why Barron had written it in the first place, and why she still felt this strange sense of unfinished business. Halfway through her shift, just as she was clearing a table, the soft jingle of the diner's entrance bell made her turn toward the door. Her breath caught. Barron Trump had just walked back in. For a split second she froze. But then years of waitressing instincts kicked in, and she composed herself, slipping on that same practiced smile she gave every customer. Before she could even greet him, his gaze found hers, his expression softening as he gave a small nod. "Welcome back," Lisa said, keeping her voice even. "Same booth." He nodded. "If it's open." She gestured toward it, and he slid into the seat smoothly. "I'll be right back with some water," Lisa said, turning away, trying to ignore the sudden nervous energy buzzing in her chest. From the corner of her eye, she caught Mara sauntering over, arms crossed and a knowing grin plastered on her face. Well, back again already," she teased. Lisa shook her head, forcing a casual shrug. "Just another customer." Mara chuckled. "Yeah, sure." Lisa chose to ignore her, grabbing a glass of water and heading back to Barron's table. She set it down gently. "Going with the usual tonight?" she asked, pen poised, ready to jot it down. Barron looked up at her, something unreadable in his expression. "What do you recommend this time?" Lisa arched an eyebrow. "You trust my taste that much?" He let out a small chuckle. "Last time worked out well." Lisa tapped her pen against the notepad, pretending to ponder. "All right. If you're in the mood for something different, I'd say the grilled chicken sandwich. It's my favorite." "Then I'll take that," he said simply. Lisa nodded, writing it down. "Coming right up." As she turned to leave, she hesitated. Should she say something about the note? Her fingers twitched slightly against the notepad, but in the end, she let it go. She didn't want to make things awkward or read too much into what could have just been a simple act of kindness. The night carried on as usual. Yet, somehow, Lisa found herself glancing at Barron's table more than she probably needed to. He sat quietly, ate his meal, checked his phone occasionally, but every now and then he would look up, catching her looking, and offer a small, polite smile before turning back to his food. When she came to clear his plate, Barron took a breath, like he was collecting his thoughts. "Can I ask you something?" Lisa raised an eyebrow. "Sure." He hesitated for a beat. Then, "Has anyone ever done something that made you feel seen? Like truly seen?" Lisa blinked, caught completely off guard. She exhaled, searching for an answer. "Yeah, a few times, I guess." Barron nodded slowly. "It's rare, isn't it?" Lisa studied him for a second before responding carefully. "I think it depends on who you surround yourself with." His lips pressed together, considering her words. "Maybe," he murmured. She wanted to ask why that question, what had brought it on, but before she could, he reached into his wallet, pulled out cash, and set it down. This time, no note, just a tip. And a quiet, "Thank you." Lisa watched as he walked out, the door swinging shut behind him, and somehow she was left with even more questions than before. That night, sitting in her apartment, Lisa found herself staring at the note she had kept tucked away, and for the first time, she realized this wasn't just about Barron. It was about her. She had spent years working hard, being kind, giving her best, without expecting anything in return. And yet, here was someone recognizing it, acknowledging her effort, in a way she had never experienced before. In that moment, Lisa made a decision. She wouldn't let this be just another passing event, something that faded into memory. No, she would use it as motivation, not just to keep doing what she was doing, but to push herself, really push herself, toward something more. Without hesitation, she pulled out her laptop, fingers flying over the keyboard as she started drafting applications. Jobs, scholarships, anything that could help her move forward. She didn't know exactly where she was headed, but for the first time in a long time, she finally felt like she was moving. A week passed. Lisa hadn't seen Barron again, but the note? She still carried it with her, not as a reminder of him, but as a reminder of herself. Then, a few days later, an email popped up in her inbox. One of the bars she had applied to had responded. It wasn't a management position. It wasn't some life-changing opportunity. But it was something. A step forward. Lisa smiled to herself, feeling lighter than she had in years. Maybe kindness did come back around. And maybe, just maybe, she was finally ready to take the next step toward whatever was waiting for her next.